Good morning, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for October 26, 2022, current 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about today, including a hurricane threat increasing in the Caribbean. Where might it head, and is this going to be our next major hurricane? So let's go and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the Atlantic Basin today, we notice that we have several areas to continue to monitor out there across the tropical Atlantic. First of all, we have a tropical disturbance in the southwestern Atlantic Basin, several hundred miles away from the coast of Florida. This has a 30% chance of developing over the next several days and will likely be moved up to a 40% chance as of 2 p.m. We also have a tropical disturbance located in the Caribbean as well. This also has a 30% chance of developing over the next 5 days as a disorganized area of shower and thunderstorm activity tries to get its act together and moves westward. And this could become our next threat for a major hurricane somewhere in the Caribbean within the next 5 to 6 days. Taking a look at Old Invest Area 94L this morning, we noticed that the shower and thunderstorm activity still remains disorganized, although there is some more around the circulation. However, of course, strong shear and cooler sea surface temperatures are going to prohibit much of any other additional development, and this is likely to become a remnant circulation within the next couple of days as this moves into the cooler waters. It moves northeast away from land. And so this will be bringing shower and thunderstorm activity to portions of the U.S. East Coast and portions of Atlantic Canada, but no other significant problems. And in the southwestern Atlantic Basin, we also have the potential for a system to develop out there. This has not yet been designated as an invest, but will likely get that designation within the next day or two. We notice currently it's a disorganized area of shower and thunderstorm activity stretching all the way from the Caribbean into the southwestern Atlantic Basin, south and west of Bermuda. But this area will become under the favorable conditions with the vertical shear becoming less, allowing for some substantial development out of this. And we could end up with our next tropical storm that ends up developing from this area within the next several days. If we look at the GFS forecast for this particular system, we notice that the environment actually becomes increasingly favorable for some additional development out of this system. Now, there will still be some shear as indicated by some of these wind barbs that are blowing up across the top of this system. There will be some shear. However, it's more in line with the storm's motion rather than going against it. And so this is actually going to allow for some additional development, at least for some time. But eventually a cold front will be sliding south, and you can kind of see that wind beginning to change out of the more kind of southwest to northeast trajectory, and this is what will likely shut the door on any substantial intensification in the future. And of course, in the Caribbean, we are also monitoring a potential system out there. This has also not been designated as an invest yet. But we do notice that shower and thunderstorm activity is pretty rampant out there, stretching all the way from Puerto Rico, where we have flash flood warnings, especially in the southern part. And we also have a disorganized area of shower and thunderstorm activity off the northern coast of South America. And this is likely to take some time to develop. It's not likely to develop significantly and rapidly like the GFS was forecasting. However, we will notice that this will end up trying to at least undergo some type of tropical genesis as we progress forward in time. If you look at the GFS vorticity field overlaid with the 300 millibar winds, we notice that the system in the Eastern Caribbean will definitely take some time to undergo tropical genesis, according to the latest GFS. However, as it does so and tries to develop, the wind shear environment isn't going to be particularly hostile. And we notice that especially in the get-go, it won't be all that bad. And so this is going to allow for tropical genesis to occur. And this is likely to be the breeding grounds for slow but steady progress. And we notice that the GFS does have a system there trying to develop and move closer to Jamaica within the next couple of days. Now, whether or not this actually happens or not remains to be seen, but the overall genesis seems to align with pretty favorable conditions. We notice that the shear values aren't going to be all that high. There will be some from a tut initially, but that will begin to weaken here by the 28th. And then going through the next several days, that shear remains pretty low. And then we will allow for some gradual development of this particular system as this moves into the Caribbean. And then once we start to get this near the latitude just to the southwest of Jamaica, that's when shear begins to increase by the 3rd. Now, if we take a look at where this system might end up going over the next couple of days, we're going to take a look here at the 300 millibar heights, and overlaid is the 850 millibar vorticity. Now, if we look at the overall pattern across the US, we notice that there will be a trough digging in the upper levels here within the next couple of days. This is by about the 29th. And we notice that this is going to be responsible for kicking the southwestern Atlantic system off and away from the US coastline. Now, eventually, though, there will be a ridge building back in place of this system, which will likely force our Caribbean system westward over time. And so we notice here by about the 3rd of November, we have a ridge building in across the Gulf of Mexico states and portions of the Midwest United States. This will likely continue to focus our storm westward with time, and actually maybe even induce a little bit of a southwesterly component to this towards the end of the forecast. So there's a lot of variables here in terms of where this might go over the next several days. But the bottom line is that any United States threat is still a long ways away and may not even come to fruition. And across the United States today, we notice that it is much different weather picture today. The temperatures across most of the central and western U.S. have fallen once again behind a cold front that is now sliding across the central and eastern U.S. into portions of Florida, where we did have a tornado earlier this morning, I believe, in portions of Florida, in the Florida Panhandle. But temperatures are falling and will continue to fall across portions of the Florida Panhandle today, and across the Florida Peninsula, temperatures will remain warm. However, they will begin to fall as the cold front slides in. So with that being said, I do hope you have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley, and I'll be talking to you guys again some more tomorrow.